Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank you
again
so
for your
much. This
Oh,
is
and
really
also
great.
this event is going to be, it was taped, so it'll be up if anyone came in late and missed it. And if you want to see the bios of any of the people on the Spring Rights website, there's a page that says participating bios. And those people who have websites, you'll be able to find that link.
Great. Thank you.
I should have asked if anyone had books for sale
I do,
and where to
actually.
get it.
My poetry book is at Buffalo Street Books and Odyssey and online, either through the publisher, Shanti Arts Publishing, or Amazon.
And what is the name of it again? You showed
It's
it.
called Old Stones Understand. There it is. There's the Stones Understanding.
And how did you come up with that title? Was it words in one of the pieces in the book?
Yep, it's a line from one of the poems. And it seemed to fit because there's a few in there that are sort of, it's all pretty naturey. A lot of it is pretty naturey, and stones and rocks pop in a few places. So
it's a really lovely book.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And Rob Sullivan has his postscripts that all about his life in the post office.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
They're
Yeah.
wonderful poems.
And
Yeah, he read about last year too about his
I
post
think
office.
he's on
experience.
as an audience member now.
I think I hear him, Rob.
I'm in here.
Is Rob still there?
I don't know.
I saw him earlier and I asked him if he wanted to be spotlighted at this point, and he said no.
And Mara, I think, has a video that's at the library that people can take out. Is that true? Or DVD?
Yeah, there's the video about forgiveness is there, but also at Artist Alley, I have a retrospective up there now in Studio 32C on Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 3. Visual art, not written art. Well, some of it's written, because it's video art and documentaries and puppets, so a lot of things. Thank you so much for organizing this, Robin. This is great.
Yes.
It was fun. I like organizing. Thank God.
Yeah, really.
Glad somebody does. Thank you. Thank you.
And you're so good at it.
Spreadsheets make me happy. They're kind of like a piece of art.
Right. Exactly.
I'm just hanging out until the next event. So, and I don't like silence. So please feel free to keep talking.
I'm going to hop off, but hop back on in a few minutes. So
Okay.
Yes.
Get that vodka.
good to see you all.
Yeah.
I'm getting my ham and butter.
Ham and butter.
Yes.
And
Hi, Annie's gone. Oh,
He's
well.
having a
Okay.
ham and butter sandwich for dinner tonight.
Oh my gosh.
I'm hungry.
Cheese. All the cheese. So much all the cheese.
Robin, can you co-host
folks.
again?
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I was removing co-host and I removed you by example. I mean, by mistake. There you are.
So sorry, I was like going to add. I was like, wait a minute.
Selden.
Spotlight anybody.
So Yael, how do you pronounce your name? Yeah. You're on mute.
There, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so repeat after me.
Okay.
Say ya,
Yael.
say L,
L.
yeah, L. It's like they're two separate words almost, but like smushed together. Yeah,
Yael.
Hi, Mickey.
Hi.
Yael. Yeah, there's a few people I had to ask about pronunciations because, and it's another thing I learned to do. Ask before I read their bio. Yael. And I knew that, but had forgotten it.
It's okay.
Nobody ever
I'm
asked me how to
always
pronounce
happy.
Robin.
They must
Hey,
not
Robin,
care.
it's Sharon. How are you?
Sharon, hi.
I just had to jump in because you're saying people asking you how to pronounce Robin.
Right.
Well, my name is Sharon. I don't ever expect anybody to remember it, to spell it, and certainly not say it.
Right.
So every now and again, as a cheat, I'll just say Sharon, right? 2 separate times I was ordering food and I was like, oh, my name is Sharon. And they spelt it SHERIN or some weird. And I was like, since when do people stop knowing how to spell Sharon?
I know
was
we've had
old.
this conversation, right? Because I've had ROBYNNE. So Mickey,
Yes.
note that there are 2 people with the same name. And Sharon, you're under as Kukua, and that's not our reader for tonight. So
Kuuka is
see
my
that?
partner.
Right, yeah, but we don't want to highlight you for the reading.
Oh no, please. I got nothing to say. I'm going to turn
Right,
my
exactly.
camera off.
Right, exactly.
Okay, gotcha. I'll be highlighting the co-host.
Right. Oh yeah, the co-host. Yes. Yeah. And that we've had people with similar names that got highlighted and they're like this on the screen.
Not me.
I know somebody last night was like this. I'm like, you have the wrong person.
Well, it's funny, like sometimes when I go to co-host and when I have like, multiple screens going, and like I did this earlier, I spotlighted someone who wasn't even a part of it because like the name suddenly jumped while I was clicking.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's another thing. When people have their screen off and then they turn it on, they jump to a different place. And if you had your hand over it, you're highlighting the wrong. Yeah, Mickey and I learn something new every time. And what I also learned last year was that we had an event where 10 people had the same name. And one of the artists had shared their link with other people. So they all came in as Jay Leeming, and the real Jay Leeming couldn't get in. So he's emailing me over here. And I'm like, well, all the J's, all the J's, if your name is Jay on this call, get out, come back in. And it took like 15 minutes to sort it out. But, Zoom is, I think it is user-friendly, but it has a lot of little quirks that you kind of have to figure out. I quite honestly love it. Mickey,
Robin,
yes.
can we do my name? Because I know you just
Oh.
said it.
Okay, wait. I'm going from your notes. Is it, it's Kuuka Dzigbordi Yomekpe?
You got it.
I did? Because the other thing is where to put the emphasis.
Right.
Yomekpe.
Yeah.
Kuuka Dzigbordi Yomekpe. Thank you for that.
You got it.
For that. Yeah, I've been sending a lot of people emails ahead of time this time saying, tell me how to pronounce your name. Yes,
Robin, do we have a reading order today?
Yes, thank you. I should talk to the people. Everyone just, this is our pre-chat. The order is the same order that was in the program. It is Elizabeth Selden, and I will introduce each of you, and I will read the bio, the participant bio that's on the Spring Rights page. It's Elizabeth Selden, and Akua did I pronounce your name correctly? Akua Leslie Hope.
Absolutely.
And then Kuuka, and then Yael, and then Karen. And then afterwards, someone say something, and then afterwards we can do a Q&A. I encourage people to put questions in the chat. We keep everybody on mute. And then at the end, people are always shy about asking questions. Sometimes it takes somebody to ask a question to kind of get the ball rolling. And so if you have questions for each other, that's always a nice way to start off. I will be asking about the audience to put questions into the chat, but the writers tonight can keep their mics on and talk to each other. That's always, I think, a special part of the event for the participants, to see the readers interacting with each other. I love doing panels on Zoom. We're going to start. Oh, it's already 7:10. So Mickey, let us start. Does anyone have any other questions?
I do.
Who's I?
Yael.
Oh, hi.
I actually have a kid that's not feeling well, and I might have to leave early, so I don't necessarily need to read first at all, but maybe if I could be second or third,
We
if
could
that
put you
doesn't mess
first.
things up.
We could put you first. It doesn't, Elizabeth doesn't mind.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we
That
want
way,
you to,
if somebody goes mommy, then
you'll cut off in the middle and it'll be taped for forever. And then many, many years from now, you can show that child the tape.
right.
I see you're not laughing. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. There's just a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we will start right now. So, we're already recording.
Mhm.
Welcome everyone to the second weekend of the 2021 Spring Rights Literary Festival. We have more events this weekend. We have events on Saturday night. We have events on Sunday night. And I'm going to put the springrights.org chat. Look at me. I feel like I have holy light on me. There we go. We also have writing workshops that continue throughout the year, all the way through November. It's all free and all on Zoom. Spring Rights is a program of the Community Arts Partnership of Tompkins County, also known as CAP. I'm Robin Schwartz, CAP's program and grant director, and the fabulous Mickey Quinn, local event producer, is on the call with us, helping me with the technical stuff. All of the Spring Rights events from May 5th to the 16th are being taped. The videos will be up at springrights.org in a week or so. Once the videos are on the site, I'll actually be emailing everyone to let you know that the videos are available. Some housekeeping. Throughout the event, we ask the audience to please stay on mute. If you've taken yourself off just now, please put yourself back on. And I want everyone to really use the chat feature heavily for questions and comments anytime. It's how we see engagement. It's how the writers know that you liked what they read. It's how they know that their people are engaged with what they're reading. So the comments are very welcome. Thanking our sponsors, Ithaca College, Wegmans, M&T Bank, CFCU Community Credit Union, the Odyssey Bookstore, and the Ithaca Marriott. We also receive support from New York State Council on the Arts, and Poets and Writers helps us pay our participating writers. Although this festival is free, we always need to fundraise. So if you feel moved to donate any amount to the awesome Spring Rights Literary Festival and the Community Arts Partnership, I will put that link in the chat along with our CAP website. And we begin tonight's event, a group reading on the theme of social justice. First up is going to be Yael Saar. Yael is an artist, writer, mental health advocate, and the founder of Mama's Comfort Camp Support Network for Moms. She is the creator of the Creative Safety Nest, original method of fostering artistic self-expression that was the center of the Motherhood is a Joke program. Take it away.
Okay. So I'm going to be reading 3 poems that it's interesting. It's interesting to me how people would find them relevant to social justice work, because they are not they're not the most direct route there, but I do believe that they are this kind of poetry is actually sort of the groundwork that allows me to be able to deal with the emotional weight of social justice work, I guess. Okay. This is The Dark Nights of the Soul. Forgiveness is the hardest of all superpowers. Harder than patience, harder even than rest. And yet without it, shame pierces us with shards of should and jabs of guilt. Resentment and grudges are not, and never have been, childish thugs who block our path to the high road out of spite. They are sentinels, dark knights, guardians of the bird of our soul, tasked to shield it from the acrid taste of humiliation and the acid burn of impotent rage. Enough is enough, they proclaim, puffing their chests. Never again, they exclaim, brandishing their swords. Now what? If the path to peace is blocked by the knights who say nay, what can you do or say? You can't fool grudges with false safety. They are immune to guilt-trip gratitude, and they have a keen sense of smell. Empty apologies make their hackles rise. You can't force forgiveness any more than you can hurry love. But you can usher it in with sovereignty. You can nourish it by affirming that you don't have to forget in order to forgive. Of course, you don't need to condone in order to move on. As good fences make good neighbors, healthy boundaries, open hearts. When you finally give yourself permission to speak your truth, to say no, to shout stop, to kick the groin, to walk away, to put yourself first. When you sign a binding contract with your intuition to follow its guidance every single time, then the knights who will never back down will step out of your way and salute you with a knowing smile as you walk down the path of least resistance with a spring in your step, your head held high. Forgiveness will blossom in your chest, and your days will finally be yours. The dance. The 2 steps back are part of the dance, damn it. All that could possibly make you get off the dance floor, sit down, run away, or never get out of bed is built in. Well, beloved, the dance floor is larger than you were led to believe. It is deeper and wider, wiser and wilder. It includes the bed, the car, the waiting room, the cold cereal, the burnt dinner, the hushed sobs in the hot, hot shower, the harsh words you couldn't keep in, the blows you couldn't duck. The dance never stops. The missteps, the drops, the fall, the crash, the splat, all are parts of the dance. The slide is just as valid as the cha-cha. It is not your job to sidestep the regressions or skip the potholes. You don't have to enjoy the view or learn the language unless you are so inclined. Even the stomps and the shaking fists are part of the dance, as are the stepped on toes, the lipstick on teeth, the wardrobe malfunctions, the nightmares, you naked in high school, and all the dreams you long to bring to life. Nothing is wasted. Every pause and detour counts. Even the time when the music is hidden behind the rush of anger, the din of anxiety, the shattering silence of grief. The dance may safely pause because it never, ever ends. So put your feet up for as long as you need, my love. Rest for as long as you can. And this one's called, And Last But Not Least. If I tried to make amends and you withheld forgiveness, I release you. I release me. Let us lick our wounds in peace. We all need and deserve shelter. I am done throwing my heart at your thorns, for they are exquisite and sharp and worthy of peace as much as the rest of you. I forgive you and me for any and all. I give myself permission to stop holding my breath until you come around. And yet, I haven't lost hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sorry your kid is having a hard time, and you.
Can you hear it in the background? There's all sorts of noises, of household noises.
No, I didn't. So next is
Thank you.
Elizabeth Selden. Hi, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the CEO, artistic director, and chief content creator of Clockmaker Arts, clockmakerarts.com. I was just checking it out. It's extremely interesting. As a solo performance artist, she has written and performed both in Ithaca as well as off-Broadway at Theater Row in New York City. As a playwright, she specializes in new works and seeks to help empower people to tell and share their unique gifts in storytelling.
Thank you so much, Robin. I also, I don't know if this is the first chapter of a book or a solo performance, but what I do know is that it is like Yael, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Yael, work, a non-direct route to social justice. So this is called The Expectations of Rosemary Bird. Imagine for a moment you are no longer sitting where you are, breathing the air you are breathing, thinking the thoughts that you are thinking. Imagine for a moment that your skin, your flesh, your mana has become something in between alive, palpable, malleable, and translucent. Now, imagine that your mana, your matter, is like the earth. You are covered in hills and forests, lakes and oceans, and every bit of you, every part of you, like an incredible ecosystem, feeds and nourishes everything else, connected like an incredible circuit of electricity lighting up all over. Imagine that your body, your earth, your ecosystem can interact and communicate with other ecosystems. And just like our earth, toxicity and fumes, pollution and imbalance exists. It finds its way into the cracks and it spreads. Subtle at first, so that you can't even detect it, you can't see it, but it slowly is growing bigger and bigger, becoming more and more expansive, until eventually it's as if you cannot see anything at all. A thick fog all around you, and you can feel it distorting, confusing, and clouding almost everything you do. The pressure begins to build, and earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, hurricanes, and massive fires start to palpate all over your mana, your ecosystem, the ecosystems you communicate with, and soon, balance seems like a myth. Clarity, health, a myth, a fairy tale, a story. And so a void begins to open, one that begs to be filled, and consumption seems like the correct response to fill that hole. Consumption of stories, consumption of that which is outside of you. And yet, the forest fires, the tsunamis, and the earthquakes continue, so you grab more and more outside of you, stuff the aching hole, the bleeding, pussing toxicity that has gashed open like a festering wound, and you continue to shove stories like gauze in its place. And you continue because you see other ecosystems doing the same, a fairy tale, a wish, a thought, a story with characters that become villains and heroes, witches and dragons, kings, queens, wizards and fools. And suddenly you are in your own story, classifying and casting each person in a different role with different responsibilities, different backstories, different intentions and truths that you choose for them. Because why assume that they are their own person with intricate lives and challenges that you may know nothing about? Just a two-dimensional person who is not you, giving you what you need or causing stress, just a two-dimensional character. It's easier that way, isn't it? And it's comforting, isn't it? To read yourself to sleep with that bedtime story. To not realize that you are actually all of those characters. The hero, the witch, the knight, the queen, the fool, the prince, the princess, and the villain. It's easier to just be one of those things. To know you are the wounded or the villain. To know for a fact that you are the hero or the witch. To know. To know. To just know. Dangerous thing, isn't it, knowing? A hard shell that we can hide behind. I only knew of one person who was brave enough to stop knowing, and her name was Rosemary Bird. And she lived in a small town just past an even smaller mountain. What you need to know about Rosemary Bird is that she was two things. She was part of a system that made life harder for others. She did not know that she was until recently. And she was also a victim of a system that held her so tightly she could not move. She was both abuser and abused. Some of which she knew, and some of which she didn't. And the day that her shell of knowing began to crumble was not surprisingly a day unlike others, and it began with a robin, a bird of spring, a bird of new beginnings, one that ushers in hope and a promise of beautiful things to come. But prior to summer and the lush nature of fruit, we endure the frosts of spring, the rain, the transformation, and it is not always comfortable. But as we shed the old, the new is given a chance. The day Rosemary saw that robin, she was deep into cleaning, as she always was on her days off. She lived alone and rarely went out to town except to work at the library Tuesdays through Fridays, like clockwork. The robin sang its song quietly at first, so she did not notice, but soon, without realizing it, she began to sing along. She was deep into her work when there was a knock at the door. And when she opened the door, she saw an envelope sitting on the welcome mat and no one but the bird in sight. It was addressed to her, Rosemary Bird. She turned it over, scanning for evidence of a return address, and when she found none, she sat down on her rocking chair on the front porch and slowly opened the letter. Before I tell you what it said, what she later told me that she'd read that day, I want you to know something, and this is very important. I may be a lot of things: cold, cutting, harsh, loving, joyful, playful, mean, hurtful, and calm. I may be a lot of things. But one thing that I am not is a liar. So when I tell you that when she opened that letter, there was nothing on it at first, believe me, there was nothing on it. Funny thing that, because that day, later on, she found a long list of words written clearly on that letter that was previously blank. How? It doesn't really matter. What matters is what it said, and what it said was this: heroes are made by choice. What do you choose? Are you the abuser or abused? And if you're both, where do you stand? Do you help trauma to heal by taking a hand in a world that needs change and deep courage from all, to speak of things that are wrong, to answer the call, to see honestly the truth, your faults and your gifts, to change inside and out and be part of the shift? One of us shifts and then the other and the other and more and more. Don't close your senses to challenges. Don't shut that door. Open your eyes, make a choice, become the hero, use your voice, use your heart and your mind, question, and maybe you'll find that you've already decided you knew that you would. Your heart had the answer, your mind never could, and your heart began singing a song that was new, and then you heard others join the chorus, and you knew it was true, that change is possible, but only if we all look honestly within and answer the call. So hero or villain, abuser or abused, start moving together towards that which can soothe, that which can heal, that which can change, transform in the night, and hold on tight, because this ride is a bumpy one. So I'll ask you again, are you the hero of this story, and are you brave enough to look within? Rosemary Bird stared at the letter. Something inside of her changed, and she noticed the robin standing at her windowsill, no longer singing. At the bottom, below what she had read, was simply, Brighton Manor, 7 p.m., don't be late. She looked again at the robin, who was at this point flown off, in search of something more interesting, no doubt, taking up its song again. And the question lay on the table, open. Should she ignore the invitation or go? That was the question. Funny word, question. Quest. Shun. Quest. Yes, a good quest always started with an even better mystery. Later that night, she arrived with the letter, challenge, question, and curiosity at the doorstep of Brighton Manor, not sure yet if she was a hero, a villain, or a fool, not late nor early, exactly at 7 p.m. And later, she told me when I asked her if she was afraid, she said, of course. But everyone knows that it's not an adventure if you're not at least a little bit scared. And as the door to there, she was a villain or a hero, witch or fool. And though there is plenty of story between now and the answer, I will give you a clue as to how she found out. And it wasn't by sitting idly living an easy life. Every bit of her was challenged, and she, in those moments, realized she had a choice of how to respond. She could not choose her challenges nor her given circumstances, but she could choose how to respond. And those choices, well, let's just say, they let her know exactly who she was by the end. Such were the expectations of Rosemary Bird. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our next author is Akua Leslie Hope, and I'm reading these bios from the participant page. So you can just to see the websites of these artists. You could go to the Spring Rights participating artist page and see them. Akua Leslie Hope is a creator and wisdom seeker who uses sound, words, fiber, glass, metal, and wire to create poems, patterns, stories, music, sculpture, adornments, and peace. A third-generation New Yorker, her honors include the NEA, 2 New York Foundation for the Arts, an SFPA award, Risling and Pushcart Prize nominations, among others. She practices her soprano saxophone and prays all suffering cease. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I wanted to do a land acknowledgement. I'm speaking to you from the ancestral land of the Onondaga, also known as the Seneca, keepers of the western door in the area currently known as the Southern Finger Lakes region of New York State in the city of Corning. I pay homage to the Seneca past, present, and future as I do to my own ancestors by whose grace I exist and am sustained. I'm going to read 4 poems. My house still bleeds. My house still bleeds where neighbor kids shot it, piercing protection. Indifferent mother screamed, bitch, at my protest of trespass. Ever something other, always something else. I conscripted their football launched at my bent head as I gardened. Never seen such a sight. Now they're grown. They avert their eyes when I watch a Black Lives Matter sign hanging in their white window. My house still bleeds. This is from 2019. I had to double check the date because 2020 seemed to have disappeared, but I realized it didn't just happen. The first day of school. The first day of school in Mississippi, chicken plant parents were disappeared. Kids came home to locked doors, some left in daycare to face life alone with nobody there. Chicken plant parents were disappeared. The 11-year-old cries for her father. She must face life alone with nobody there. He's not a criminal, she sobs. The 11-year-old cries for her father, an immigrant who works to clothe and feed her. He's not a criminal, she sobs. Let my parents be free with everybody else, please. An immigrant who works to feed and clothe her. A chicken plant parent who disappeared. The 11-year-old cries for her father. the first day of school in Mississippi. ICE had conducted in 2019 the largest single state raid, taking 700 people from their workplace, leaving dozens of children to come home from school with no parents, and infants and toddlers were left in daycare. Again, a gun. Whose cell phone is a gun? Whose frown is a gun? Whose toy is a gun? Whose today is a gun? Whose smile is a gun? Whose tomorrow is a gun? Whose wallet is a gun? Whose loud is a gun? Whose soft is a gun? Whose CDs are a gun? Whose silence is a gun? Whose protest is a gun? Whose stop is a gun? Whose go is a gun? Whose yes is a gun? Whose no is a gun? Whose pipe is a gun? Whose hand is a gun? Whose stand is a gun? Whose advance is a gun? Whose retreat is a gun? Whose plea is a gun? Whose meal is a gun? Whose shower head is a gun? Whose question is a gun? Whose answer is a gun, is a gun, is a gun? The off-cited rationale for killing unarmed citizens used by police is misapprehension of some object as a gun. I envy you. I envy you, for whom all of this is new. I envy you who did not tremble at any unexpected call at any unusual hour, announcing your cousin's miscalculated overdose or brother's narc sweet imprisonment, a father's sudden hospitalization, facing proven fears that they won't be cared for. That skinny art guy with the marker beaten to death, that grandmother naked and afraid shot in her apartment, a boy playing alone killed in seconds, the kid walking home from the store murdered, a fiance celebrating his impending nuptials, bullet riddled with friends in his car, the father waiting for his son to come home from school, executed while he backed up away, a wallet mistaken as a gun, as an immigrant mistaken for some other, stood in the doorway of his own home, had his unfulfilled promise Swiss cheesed by lead. The young woman playing video games with her nephew slain through her open window, the woman rescuer asleep at home, annihilated while she slept, all by domestic enforcers of our states of misbeing, those designated to maintain peace, secure order, destructive in their misguided executions of dubious duty, systemic thoughtlessness, misapprehensions, protected by uniform and badge and privilege and endless assumptions of others' guilt, without second thought or even breath. I envy you who don't know this, who never knew this automatic cessation of futures, this swift and peculiar severance, impetuous eradications, pernicious annihilations, lives ended for minute infractions, imagined slights, no reason whatsoever, sometimes too often arbitrary, impulsive slaughter. To find this strange and shocking in its terribleness, I'm glad you find it inconceivably awful. I envy you for whom this is news, for whom this is new. And perhaps you will demand it change.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I feel I'm witnessing a very powerful evening tonight. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much, Akua. Next is Kuuka Dzigbordi Yomekpe. She is a writer and a vegan chef who is proud to be Black and queer. She writes mostly essays and nonfiction and can be found via her blog. And for the link to that blog, it is in the participating writer page. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Akua. My name, Kuuka, means, it's also Akua, girl born on Wednesday in the Akan tribe in Ghana, West Africa. So thank you for leading the way, for the blessing of your voice and your words. I'm gonna read two pieces from my blog. So I printed them out and I went to go get them from the printer and they were half paged. So I can't read from those pages, so I have to read from the computer. So I won't be staring at you like I want to, but I'm with you. So the first one was written June 16, 2020. This is post George Floyd. Put your money where your mouth is. Everyone is releasing a statement. Literally, even my accounting firm say they're supporting their customers and they won't stand for it. There are lots of articles just calling BS, mostly because of how late they release these statements and how these places are known for racist practices and policies. The Black struggle is in the news all of a sudden because white people have taken notice. It's almost like we've been saying the way we are treated is shitty for centuries, and all of a sudden, white people woke up and saw it too. Just like it takes one of them to repeat something we have already said for the others to pay attention. They can only hear it from their own, and we have been telling them to tell their own for years now. I honestly don't know why this latest shooting is the bean that tipped the scale, but it did. Will the scales be tipped in our favor until real structural change comes, or will white people get tired and give up along the way? A few white friends of mine have said they're thinking of me and can't imagine what it must feel like. One said, "I'm really worried about you. I'm praying for you." I smirked. I said to one of them, "I've been in this skin longer than you've been contemplating if you believe my struggles or not. My people have survived all these centuries. We are resilient. We ain't going nowhere. And that's it." I think I surprised her. It probably felt flippant or nonchalant, but there isn't much to say beyond, don't just pray, fight for me. Because you know me and I'm a great friend. You will give each Black person you meet the benefit of the doubt and offer them respect because you respect me. You will seek to educate yourself about my people and the movement, and you will check your own privileges and the privileges of other white friends. Some Black folks I know don't fuck with white folks. They think no good can come of it. However, I am that moderate Black person who will give you the benefit of the doubt and allow you to prove yourself. I will even offer you space and resources to help you grow. That is, until you prove to me that you don't have my best interest at heart, or that you're just defensive and never want to mention race, or want to explain my experiences away. Then I slowly remove myself. Again, if we're still friends to this day, then consider yourself lucky and do something besides pray and worry about me. Make some other Black friends. For most of you, I am your only Black friend. Remedy that. A week ago, I was in a healing circle for people of color And when we got to the point of letting go of things, I said, I'd like to let go of the expectations I have of my white friends that they will take action on my behalf. I needed to be okay with these friends finding themselves on the wrong side of history later on. I need to cut them loose. Our facilitator wrote this down and then proceeded to burn the slip of paper. Have I let go yet? Somewhat, but it is really difficult not to wonder what they're doing after they call or text me that they're worried. In any case, it has been a really interesting 3 weeks since he was killed. I have gone from catatonic to attending my first march since I lived in the Bay Area to taking some time off to breathe and reconnect and recharge. It feels like this time we're in it for the long haul and I need to gird my loins. There are some rumblings of change in the institution I work for. I am hopeful, but try not to hold my breath. Charges are being brought, defunding is being talked about. It seems like we just need more woke people on our side. A coffee company was under fire. People seem to be banding together to change things. I want to hope again, but I am cautious that perhaps it is too soon. The second one was written in 2015, and right now I can't remember who it was in 2015, but it was also after one of these shootings. Being given a pregnancy test every time I go to see a doctor, no matter the complaint. Being sent home with Tylenol when I was passing kidney stones. Being told we need to call the manager. Being told not everything is about race. Being told as an educated woman, you have nothing in common with Michael Brown. He was a thug. Being told that African American struggle shouldn't concern me because my people were not forcibly brought here on ships, that I knew where my people were from. Being told I was not like them. Being told while on a school road trip, the bathroom on site was out of order, right before the key was handed to the white customer who walked in after me. Being told the ice cream counter was closed for the day. A few minutes later, one of my teammates returned to the van with a double scoop of fudge ice cream in a waffle cone. Being called the N-word. Being pulled over by 2 police officers in Houston for not having my lights on, mind you, before dark. The 2 then proceeded to call for backup because it looks like you're carrying contraband. Having my car subsequently searched by 4 police officers and then being handed a $300 ticket for the alleged crime. Being watched suspiciously by a neighbor while watering the garden when I was house sitting for a friend. 10 minutes later, the neighbor disappeared and a cop appeared. Being told to calm down when for all intents and purposes, I am calm. Being told, well, aren't you a very educated lady? Some things are more specific to being Africa. Being asked how I came to the US. Do camels swim? Being told my kind should never have been allowed in the US. We're taking jobs from everyone else. I could go on, and the list does go on, and will probably go on for my lifetime, because that is what being Black in America comes with. These instances I listed are the ones that come readily to mind and the ones I've been mulling over the last 2 weeks since Miss Bland's death. So this is Sandra Bland. This afternoon, I spent time with a friend and got to really talking about race, which we hadn't done in a while. She hadn't heard about this latest case, so I filled her in best I could. We shared our various memorable race moments as we talked about Miss Bland. What it came down to in the end was that this daily shit was tiring as fuck. It's the psyche damage that is done. I was tired of having to read between the lines when someone asked me the most basic of questions or requests. I was finding myself becoming more and more paranoid, but the more deaths there are, the more the paranoia seems warranted and for my own safety. How tiring. With each Black body down for minor or no offenses, the more meticulous I become when I communicate with white folks, especially now that I live in a conservative small town. With Miss Bland's death now, you best believe I've got my turn indicator on for more than a few feet, although it could be random as having it on for too long. Who knows? With Miss Bland, I am not sure of what randomness will cost another Black person their life, or is costing them as we speak. We must remember not everything makes the news. Another friend I was chatting with recently said I was a triple threat, especially in this town. Perhaps even quad or quint, if you were adding attitude and beauty. I was highly educated, I was queer, and I was Black. The truth is, I had no business being any one of those, and that is some of what made Miss Bland a threat. The way her death started by an escalation of simple events reminded me of a recent interaction. I was crossing back into the US from Canada after visiting my hair lady in Montreal. The Border Patrol officer looked in the back of the car and asked many unnecessary questions, but the remark that left me wincing goes something like this. Well, aren't you just quite the educated lady? I could almost hear the sneer in his voice, and I flashed back to what it must have been like in the Jim Crow civil rights era. Oh, well, if you aren't the most educated nigga I met, and I'll be damned, fellas, looky what we got here. The mighty educated nigga. The more I thought about it, the more I speculated on how badly these situations can go and how quickly they can escalate. Who's there to stop him from interpreting my answers as sassy? He asked where I was headed, then my occupation, then where I worked, as if to catch me in a lie, or to ascertain for himself that I was really qualified for these positions. Did the sight of us incite jealousy, disdain? Did I irk him just by my mere existence? Oh, sorry. I had considerable access to afford to go across the border just to do my hair. He knew it. I knew it. My fellow blogger friend wrote suggesting that most of us already know, that Ms. Bland was the white officer's vision of an uppity Negro who failed to put her cigarette out when he commanded. She did not fumble and resort to yes'm that he had perhaps envisioned as he threatened to light her up. This brings me back to my interaction with the Border Patrol officer. How could I not have answered all his questions truthfully? I was on camera. It is a classic catch-22. Now, all of this could have been innocent. Perhaps he meant no harm. He was just curious. But I caught myself smiling extra wide and being more of my usual charming self as I reflected with my friend this afternoon. I realized that's the mental toll that this stuff takes on me that I am upset about. The second guessing, the loud smiles, even when I'm pissed, the trying to engage you so I don't seem sassy or uppity. This is what wears me down. There have been several pieces by my friends over the last 2 weeks, and I will put a couple in the chat later. But so this was 5 years from last year, right? We're still having the same conversation. Anyway, I'll save it for the chat later. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next up is Karen Faris. It's so nice to meet people I've just been emailing with for such a long time. Karen works across the artistic spectrum. She combines poetry with fabric, words with photography, creates collages, and uses these things to create performance art. Her work is informed by her personal belief that compassion can save the day and the day needs saving. Copies of her poetry chapbook, The Death of Compassion, are available, and the link is in the participant bio page. Oh, there it is.
Live in person.
Yeah, it comes with a pencil and a Post-it note.
So I'm very pleased to be here with this group. Your voices are so strong and so compelling. I'm honored to share this space with you. And it's really hard to move into this space after such strong voices. I thank you for your work, first of all. Tonight, I am going to do 2 pieces for you. They're more on the performance side of town. They are called Witness Protection Program, and the second one is Sermons from the Mountaintop. There's light shining in the wrong spot here, though, first. Witness Protection Program. If you are hearing this, you will be considered to have left the Witness Protection Program. You will be required to report to the nearest border, where you will be asked pointedly to empty your pockets of candy, cash, and lottery tickets, along with deeds to property, home and car, boat and beloved, as well as bank accounts complete with passwords. You will be allowed to keep your phone so that you can call home for a ride. But when they get here to this unknown address, they will be asked many things. You will be asked many things, called many things, most of which you don't know because you have always lived within the Witness Protection Program. You will be given a uniform that drains you of color and food that drains you of life, along with sips of water to keep you alive so that they can drain you of life. You may or may not have a name. You may or may not want to use your name. You may or may not want to live, but you know you don't want to die here alone at the border for want of a piece of chalk to redraw the line and on which side you stand. Sermons from the Mountaintop. People, she cried to the mountaintop, though the mountaintop had been ground down to fine little bits that once emptied had been filled with fine little bits that went out to the ocean to swirl away to the grand raft of trash, gobbled up into fillet of fish, consumed as fast food, the leftovers crumpled into a ball that the gulls swooped up, only to drop once the odor of fries had dissipated. People, she cried, are you not listening? Because they weren't. The beats and the carnivals in their heads had been funded by social media apps until they could not recognize that the fruit of a tree doesn't come with a bite out of its apple. And so she cried some more and moved on. And then she cried just enough that a buttercup grew between traffic calming infrastructure sometimes called a sidewalk. And she did move sideways when people walked their dogs and skateboards skirted by, because they had not heeded the words of Jane Jacobs. And so she cried some more and moved on to the next border town, where she was pushed on by the forces of law and order, who had become more forceful or more blatantly forceful, until she had to leave all the others behind, the fence that said no trespassing, violators will be prosecuted, when they meant shot or worse. So she went to the next border town and cried some more, and the border town after that, and the one after that, until finally she climbed another garbage hill to take a look around. By now she was completely distraught, and the vibrations in the ground said, there's something coming down the tracks, there's something coming down the tracks, there's something coming down the tracks. So she jumped into the sea, where continental currents took her out and about, buoyed as she was by bits of plastic on the way to the grand raft of trash, where she met a fish kill, the size of a country wide, that had been done in by sonar, which nearly did her in too, stench being malodorous. By now, brain fog and high carbon emissions were making exit flash behind her brain, but she could not be done in that easily and needed to finish what she started. And so she needed a mountaintop from which to speak. Besides, she had no paddle on these currents, garbage being rudderless. And so she drifted on and on and on until finally she made it to the central geyser of trash, humankind's monolithic testament of achievement to themselves, where she was greeted by the dolphins, who told her of a mountaintop, but it was underwater and she would have to swim. The air was getting warmer. The sun was getting hotter, parching her throat with the salt of the sea. And she knew she had to take the plunge. And so she dove to swim with the dolphins. Now the dolphins had taken thousands upon thousands of Douglas Adams' book club edition of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and piled them high onto a mountaintop that was piled on the one brine to the planetary floor. We've been waiting for you, they told her. She spoke, but her words were garbled like marbles in her mouth or speech bubbles, cartoon captions that said, wow, pow, right in the mouth of the kisser. Which is what happens to people who don't have a company. Even Charlie was a chicken of the sea and no sushi, no tuna royalty at all, having sold out the others for sushi, according to clause 17B of his corporate contract. And she had no sea sponsors, just a dozen dolphins who were trying to get off the planet too, since hearing her in speech bubbles determined that she was no adolescent spokesperson, precocious in her outrage, like her Twitter feed said, demanding that humans get their act together and stop wrecking the world as the entire planet could see, which brings us to rising sea levels and the hopes that we could finally see. We don't need chickens of the sea when there are still a few beautiful blue tuna in the sea. See? And this poem has been brought to you by Sea Journeys, makers of inflatable rafts, dolphins, and other fine water products, perfect for rising tides, shifting shorelines, and crossing oceans and empires with ease. Inflate before using, not suitable for children. Children should always be accompanied by an adult. Plastic bags may cause suffocation. Do not inhale. Keep away from children. Please use poetry responsibly. Thank you.
Yay. I like how your whole body was part of the delivery of the performance art. So it's getting late. I was just completely lost track of time. So I want to thank everyone so much, so much, so much for being here tonight and sharing this with us. And this will be taped, and I'll be sending it out and asking people to please watch this event. Thank you, Mickey Quinn. Thank you, Karen and Elizabeth and Akua and Yael and Kuuka. I didn't look at my notes. Did I say that right? Thank you. I hope to meet you again. Thank you. Good night.